the hell is going on? 4 things. North Korea has a massive military parade. Coca-Cola releases Coca-Cola plus coffee in Japan. Speaking of Japan, Japan proposes to end its whaling ban. And finally, the appropriately named Naomi Osaka, also of Japanese descent, beats Serena Williams. But looking at the left-wing media, you wouldn't know it. I go by the name of Johnny Massacre, and this is the Johnny Massacre Show. How's it going, people? Now I have this intro at the touch of a button. Look. Hello. I can just keep doing it over and over again, but I'm not going to bleed your ears. So I can get the Johnny Massacre Show out much faster, because before I'd add that video in post-recording in a video editing software, but now I can just go boom. So let's get to it. What the hell is going on? Well, Coca-Cola has released a coffee-flavored cola. Why is this important? I don't even drink Coca-Cola. I also very rarely drink caffeine because I'm allergic to caffeine. I'm a little bit sensitive, you see. And if I do dare to drink caffeine, I will go fucking mad. Has anyone ever seen the French cartoon Asterix? You know, Asterix and Obelix? And Obelix, the big fat guy, he's super strong because when he was young, he fell into a barrel of magic potion. So he is forever tanked up on this potion. Whereas the other characters have to drink it in order to get the same effect. That's kind of like me with caffeine. I must have fallen into a vat of caffeine, like Jack Napier, the Joker, as of DC fame before he became the Joker. He fell into that vat of chemicals that you can see in the Tim Burton Batman movie. And I fell into much the same thing, but it was full of coffee. And therefore, I'm constantly tanked on caffeine my whole life. It's like my weird superpower. So if I actually dare to drink caffeine when I'm already permanently caffeinated, it's too much for my brain to handle and I go nuts. So why am I covering this? Because Coca-Cola is such an iconic brand. You know, what's that guy's name who did the soup design? Andy Warhol, right? He designed those tins of soup. I believe they're Campbell's soup. And it's just become this iconic design we've all seen everywhere. It becomes embedded somewhere in the culture. Much like Coca-Cola, it's just been everywhere. It's been in movies, it's been in games, people have used it in song lyrics, and you see it everywhere. There's something about that branding. It's one of the first major, mega, super duper corporations. And so, hey, what happens to Coca-Cola happens to everyone. And them releasing coffee flavored Coca-Cola, I think is kind of cool. It's in Japan only, and despite Japan being very conservative, they always have new products coming out. It's ironic because in England, I think people are much more expressive and open-minded, and yet they never do variations of products. It's always the same old Kit Kat. You might get a white chocolate Kit Kat, or maybe even an orange Kit Kat, or a dark chocolate Kit Kat at a stretch. But you're not going to get sweet potato or sake flavour or butter on toast flavour like you can out here. And so Japan coming out with coffee flavoured Coca-Cola really isn't that weird. It's one of the reasons I live here, just because the market's always changing as far as consumable things are going. Let's have a little look at what is going on with this new Coca-Cola Plus coffee release. So, according to SoraNews24.com, soon there'll be no need to choose between coffee and soda, because later this month, Coca-Cola Plus Coffee is going on sale in Japan. Coca-Cola is the parent company of the popular Georgia brand of canned coffee sold in Japan. Don't think that the recipe for Coca-Cola Plus Coffee is as simple as cracking open a can of Coke, another of Georgia, mixing them together and resealing the container though. Coca-Cola Coffee is actually made with coffee extract powder, and the beverage is carefully concocted to let both its cola and coffee flavors work in harmony while both making their presence unmistakably felt on your taste buds. So that sounds like a press release that they've just copied and pasted. I remember when Red Bull released Cola, and I remember going to the store and trying that and really liking it. This feels a little bit like that. It's a little bit novelty, a little bit gimmicky. I wonder if this will make it to the European market. So that's happened. I haven't seen it anywhere. I don't think it's actually released yet, but it's going to be coming soon. I don't drink caffeine, as I just said. So if I see it, I will buy some, and I'll get someone on the show to taste it to tell you what it tastes like. How does that sound? Next up today, North Korea had a parade without nukes. Now, North Korea has this kind of iconic mass games, and they have them regularly, and it was their 70th anniversary, I believe. And apparently the emphasis on this parade was building up the economy and not necessarily on nuclear weapons. There were no intercontinental ballistic missiles on show. What does that mean? Well, it means North Korea are not being so provocative. As you might have known, North Korea have launched a lot of missiles in the last 5 years. They've been exponentially ramping up their nuclear program. And it was only recently they announced that they'd successfully launched an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, which apparently is capable of reaching the United States. Now, Donald Trump met with Kim Jong, and then since then, he's toned it down a lot. A hell of a lot. So you do wonder what is going on in North Korea. I think they've proven themselves to be very untrustworthy over the years. Originally, we cut a deal, I think it was in 1990 with Bill Clinton or something, where we gave them aid in exchange for them giving up their nuclear program and the West being able to send over inspectors, and gradually that just went by the wayside. So it seems like whenever North Korea wants some money, it tries to come to the table for some kind of negotiations, and then when those are made, it takes the money and then just keeps on being nefarious and concocting its plans to take over the world. So you have to take everything they say with a pinch of salt. One does wonder what's going on. There were rumours that when they were testing nukes, they blew up their nuclear test site and wiped out a whole load of their tech and investment in their nuclear. So it could be something to do with that. One has to wonder. I mean, Kim Jong seems to be a bit of a narcissistic type. He is the king of the world over in North Korea after all. And he likes to entertain weird American washed up stars like Dennis Rodman. So maybe he's got a little bit of a taste for the West, and he knows he can't continue doing what he's doing, being so isolated. He has to branch out in order to forge new channels of power. And maybe he's just tired of running a shit show. Who fucking knows? But let's take a look at the video, because it's always interesting to see North Korea pissing around in their military parades, because they do that goose step and all that weird stuff, and it looks like a scene out of 1930s or 1940s. Everything's really out of date. They are stuck in a time hole, is North Korea. Here they are. Okay, well, that is quite provocative. Look at that picture. That looks like something that would be hanging on your Asian granny's wall from another time altogether. Look at their clothes. It just looks like communist era clothes. They haven't washed them for the last 100 years. There he is. What a unique hairstyle. Those hats, those are so out of date. So 70, it's their 70th anniversary of this parade. Let's flick it on a little bit. What else can we see? Just loads of submissive people all doing exactly the same thing, following the orders to a T. Huge statues of the dictators, present and past, that are running or have run the country respectively. Garish colours, everyone feigning happiness. This is what hell looks like. Imagine having to do this the whole time, and if you don't, if you mess it up, you and generations of your family will probably be exterminated. Look how old school this is. Look at the clothes. It kind of looks like a Disney parade, but one for people who don't make a lot of money, maybe free to get in, and then you have to pay for all the rides kind of Disneyland. I think I've seen enough of this. I'm just lost for words looking at this North Korean shit show. So that happened. So that was kind of significant. And according to Japan News, with tensions once again on the rise, a parade featuring the very missiles that so unnerved Trump last year and led to a dangerous volley of insults between both leaders could have been seen as a deliberate provocation. The North also refrained from immediately televising the event, although North Korean media were out in force to film it, and possibly for the first time with drones and cameras. So they finally got drones in North Korea. Welcome to the club. I'm sure you won't be hit with the same restrictions we have in the West, because North don't really need to give a reason for restrictions. Basically, no one can use a drone unless you're either Kim Jong or one of his boys. This is a very big positive statement from North Korea. Trump tweeted, Trump is loving the parade. Thank you to Chairman Kim. That comment will have the liberal media up in arms, saying Trump is sympathizing with the dictator, calling Chairman, it's like they're best buddies, they're going to liken him to Hitler, so on and so on and so on. Overreaction. Trump continued, we will both prove everyone wrong. There is nothing like good dialogue from two people that like each other, much better than before I took office. Well, that's a very positive tweet. I think if Kim Jong-un is the narcissist we think he is, he might enjoy that quite a lot. Maybe Trump is going to tempt him onto the world stage and he'll be so addicted to it. One day he'll open up the borders and people will be able to come in and live and work in North Korea. I think not. There's no way he can let go of that control, lest he end up with some kind of very sketchy fate akin to the dictator Gaddafi. But who knows what will happen in the future. Whaling ban. So now we're on to Japan's whaling ban. So Japan currently kills whales under a provision that allows hunting for research purposes. Japan has hunted whales for centuries as a traditionally cheaper alternative source of protein. Although living out here, I very rarely see whale for sale as food. There is a place in Shibuya next to the 109 building that is a whale restaurant, and it serves a course of all kinds of differently cooked whale, barbecued whale, whale sashimi, whale tempura, and other kinds of whale. That's the first time I ever tried whale, and it was amazing. It was so delicious. So that gave me the wrong impression about whale, and every time I've had it since, probably 4 or 5 times, it ranged from bad to disgusting. It has a very pungent smell. It's very oily. And I think the places that have this cheap whale, it's just been frozen for a long time. I think that's where a lot of Japan's whale ends up for their research purposes, is in a freezer for years. So it didn't taste very fresh and it didn't taste very good. And Japan's catch has fallen in recent years due to declining domestic demand for whale meat and challenges to its hunt, so it's getting squeezed. Its quota is now 333 whales for the year, and that is a third of the number it used to kill before the International Court of Justice ruled in 2014 that its program wasn't scientific in nature. Surprise, surprise. It revised the program and resumed the hunt in 2016. So I was kind of reading online, why the hell does Japan keep whaling if no one's really eating it? What's the point? I think it's to do with money. So someone mentioned online, his name is James McSidney, a Japanese teacher on Coca of all places, the same place where Jordan Peterson got inspiration to write his best-selling book. And that guy said that some small towns' whole economies are based around whale fishing. They have government subsidies, which basically a government subsidy means funding from a government to support the industry. And I can tell you right now from my experience, when the government gives money to someone, you can bet your ass corruption is involved. And look at the whaling, they're doing it for scientific purposes. It just stinks of corruption. Who exactly receives the money? How is it distributed? And so on. I wouldn't be surprised if in these towns, all of them vote Conservative. and these people are protected by the Conservative government. And also, you can bet your ass that some of those subsidies go back to the other way, to local politicians. You see their posters up all over the walls, and other politicians higher up. So the town is very conservative. Everyone there votes Conservative. The Conservative government funds them for their whaling, and the Conservatives, they can feel like they're sticking to tradition. And they'll give a subsidy if it finds its way back to them somehow. So Japan wants to end the whaling ban. There seems to be a constant running battle with them, so we don't know if and when anything will go through, but the first statements have been made from Japan about wanting to continue whaling. Some more stuff that I found online. Eating whale meat is a traditional part of a Japanese culture which has gone through some dramatic historical turns in the past 50 years or so. This guy says, I think that eating whale meat was actually encouraged and a necessary thing after World War II, when the government's school lunch program began. As Japan has relatively little land for grazing, raising cows for beef was not viable on a national scale. Whale meat was a relatively cheap and plentiful source of protein and was a common ingredient in the post-war years. Many baby boomer generation people grew up on it and acquired a taste for it, I would think. From my experiences in Japan, most people don't mind eating whale meat, but as it is relatively scarce now and generally not fresh and of great quality because of the scarcity, it's not something that people are prepared to pay for, as they can get much cheaper and fresher types of seafood. There you go. Finally, Naomi Osaka is the current champion of women's tennis. She won the US Open against Serena Williams, but you wouldn't know it. Why wouldn't you know it? Because Serena Williams' tantrum has totally overshadowed this event, and that is rather sad. So I just Googled Naomi Osaka, and all I could see was pictures of Serena Williams. Naomi Osaka paid the price for the feud between Serena Williams. Naomi Osaka beats the boos and begins long road to tennis icon status. The 20-year-old US Open champion Naomi Osaka felt she had to apologize. This cartoon of Serena Williams and Naomi Osaka is being called out for presenting racist something. Naomi Osaka admits she was a little bit sad as US Open win ended in boos. So 80% of the headlines are just talking about Serena Williams. And that just shows you how selfish she was during that match. She said some shit to the referee because she couldn't control her emotions. She smashed her racket on the ground, and she was given advice by her coach, which is illegal, which the coach admitted. So she fucked up. And she created such a stink that at the end of it, Naomi Osaka was playing second fiddle to Serena Williams' ego. So that's why in sport, people should be humble, show humility, and say the best man or woman won on the day. I'm sorry, but if you lost 1 point for a coaching error, you didn't have to lose a point for shouting at the ref, and you didn't have to smash your racket on the ground. So you lost 1 fucking point. If you're a champ, 1 point wouldn't mean shit. You'd come up against the odds and sort it out. So Serena Williams, what a load of bollocks. She's a media darling, and she hangs out with Jay-Z, and she's a real lefty, and she wanted to vote Hillary, who's one of the worst candidates in presidential history, even worse than Trump. Yes, I said it. That's my opinion. And so the media love Serena Williams, so they're a bit torn now. They have to actually throw her to the wolves in favor of Naomi Osaka. But well done, Naomi Osaka. What a name you've got. And I asked one of my Japanese friends what the Japanese people think about Serena's antics, and apparently it's a 50-50 split in Japan. Half the people think it's justified, you know, Serena, she was caught in the heat of the moment. The other half think she's a selfish bitch, a bit like me. And that seems to be the Japanese people's thoughts, split 50-50. What do you think about that? Does anyone actually support Serena on this? So next up, we got some new music for my section, My Life. What the hell is going on in my life? Wow, that was way too loud. Sorry about that. But anyways, I made that music. I really like that beat. What is going on in my life? My life. So, okay, I bought a fucking new PlayStation 4 game. I couldn't help it. I haven't bought a game for ages. Well, actually 3 or 4 months. But I haven't really been into any games for years now, even though I'm a massive gamer. But I'm getting back into it for the sake of streaming and to keep contact with some of my mates in England who I just can't see because they're 6,000 fucking miles away. So I bought Pro Evolution Soccer, also known as Winning 11 in Japan. The best soccer game ever made was probably the first, second and third Winning 11s on the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. I played the shit out of those games. Very technical, very unforgiving. Many late nights smoking weed and just having insane laughs with my mates playing that game. So I got the recent one, and it's like riding a bike. As soon as you download it, you can get back into it if you played it across the series. It hasn't really changed that much. So if you buy it every year, you're probably going to be a little bit disappointed. But the game mechanics in Pro Evolution Soccer are excellent. My friend Luke, I was always one of the best back in the days out of all my mates. But then as the years went by, I got worse and worse. And I think my mate Luke played it relatively consistently up until about 2015, 2016. The last one I played was God knows how many years ago. And so he smashed me. He beat me about 6-7 times. But I did win the last game. So I was pretty happy about that. So yeah, I've been playing a bit of that. Lost a bit of sleep because of it, but that's just gaming, right? Also, the other thing I want to talk about is I got a new device. I want to show you. It's called a slam, a manly slam, and you can see the LED meter, the gain reduction. I'm talking into it right now, actually, and it is a rather beautiful piece of equipment. It is a stereo limiter and microphone preamp. So we've got a traditional style limiter over here, and then we've got a super fast FET limiter on the right. It's 2 levels of limiting to get really nice loudness on a sound, and it just clamps down on the signal so fast. A very high tech piece of gear, and I've wanted one of these for a long fucking time. So yeah, Manly Slam, thank you Manly, you're fucking awesome. There will be more gear to come pretty soon in my studio. As for the mailbox, none of you, I was gonna use a horrible insult there, but I'm gonna, since I'm live and I've only got one shot of this, I'll try to be nice, shall I? None of you people have left me any questions. I can't imagine why, because I thrive off your questions. Ask me a question. It's like putting a coin in a slot, mate. It's just all going to happen. So ask me some questions in the comments for tomorrow's Johnny Massacre show. I would love to have your questions. Why don't you ask me something about Japan, because I know everything about Japan since I live out here, or just ask me about life. I do like a little bit of philosophizing sometimes. So no mailbox this week, but come on, ask me. Now finally, something I'm loving right now. No music for this section yet, but there will be soon. Something I'm loving right now is something I mentioned on the last Johnny Massacre show. Eminem's album Kamikaze. It's fucking good. I've given a few listens to this. What an amazing project. I read some reviews online giving it shit, saying how it's like an old man bemoaning the changes in the music industry, and some people will argue that case. That's a lazy argument to make, but I think Eminem is a pretty open-minded person. He worked with a lot of different artists, from underground to pure pop, and he's right in the music industry side by side with Dr. Dre and so on. So I don't think Eminem is out of touch, to be honest. And him calling out mumble rappers is good because they are shit. If you cannot hear what someone is saying and the lyrics are unintelligible and it's not of a certain level of quality, it doesn't flatter the ear, it's not memorable, it's just a fad, it's just a trend, and that should be called out. So I support Eminem all the way. He addressed a lot of the failings of the last album. He apologized and stuff, even though he still hates Trump. He didn't say anyone who dislikes Trump is an asshole, much like Hillary did, who went on to lose the election, and how Eminem lost the election, metaphorical election, of his last album for votes in the form of downloads. So Eminem, he was man enough to admit he fucked up getting political on the last one, and the rhyming quality is really good. The beats are really sticking in my head, and I read that the quality of the production was patchy, but it isn't really. It's really high quality, and the interesting thing is there's no real names on the production hit list. There's no Pharrell Williams in there or anything. or even prolific hip hop producers, there are a few, but most of them are relatively unknown unless you're really into hip hop. And that just shows Eminem has a really good ear for quality. It's not just about the rap, it's about the branding, the product, the package, the message, everything. And he kind of knows what works and what doesn't, obviously. And that is nothing to be sniffed at, because there's a lot of producers or artists who've been in the game a long time who just fall off. And Eminem, he thrives on being the underdog. So he's always going to be angry, this guy. So there's going to be albums until the end of time. And I think he's a sharp guy. I think there's going to be another 5 or 6 Eminem albums before he declines. He's 46, I think. 45, 46. I think, yeah, probably he's going to go into his 50s like Jay-Z. And I'm happy for that to happen, because I still like his music. Really liking the album. So if you haven't heard it yet, Kamikaze, go and have a listen. It's a really interesting snapshot of his life. If you're a fan and you kind of were pissed off with his Trump rant because you're not a liberal, I give him another chance with this one, because it is decent. So that's about it for today. I can get the Johnny Massacre shows out quicker because I've got my intro and outro videos at the touch of a button. So I appreciate you tuning in today. If it was a little bit choppy, it's because I'm doing it all in one take. Let's see you ever go. Come on, where's your show, mate? Where's your show? You've been witnessing the Johnny Massacre show. I've been Johnny Massacre. See you on the next one.